Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with a very significant update in regards to the Apocalypse Saga. And you guys recall, obviously going through the Horsemen, Scourges, and Sagas, that's ultimately how you can actually unlock Apocalypse in Marvel Strike Force, being one of the best tunes in the game. Now, this has been a long time coming because many folks have really vocalized their discontent with building a lot of these non-meta teams in order to unlock a meta character in Apocalypse, right? And because we're strapped for resources and constantly chasing the meta, this is a very, very sound and timely update, guys. So, in case you haven't checked it out, it is on MarvelStrikeForce.com, and it's called the Apocalypse Saga Improvement. And as you can see, on July 2nd, so just yesterday, it was released. But let's go through it together, guys. There are some big changes that's going to help a lot of you folks, especially for those of you that are new to the game or perhaps that have been playing for a couple months. Well, this is going to make it much easier to actually unlock Apocalypse. So, here we go. The Marvel Strike Force landscape continues to evolve, and as it does, we'll review our content to adapt to the changing needs. With all this in mind, and to ensure players enjoy the challenge of recruiting Apocalypse, we're updating the Apocalypse Saga trait requirements. Please note that the gear tier and ISO 8 requirements will still remain the same. So nothing really changes from the requirement standpoint. It's more so how many characters and what options are available in order to allow you to actually unlock Apocalypse. Here are the updated trait requirements arriving soon. So keep in mind, this is not live just yet. Make sure you guys are following along because this is going to be a pretty sizable update. But remember, these usually take a patch or two to get into the game. And once they do, then you can fully have access to these revisions that they've made. So Pestilence Saga unlock requirements. This is the one for Morgan Le Fay. You can see previously before, if we work our way top down from hard, heroic to apocalyptic, you needed the full Darkhold team at Gear Tier 13, Gear Tier 15, and Gear Tier 17. That's a lot of resources in terms of building those characters. Now, it has been modified. You can actually just bring in Morgan Le Fay here at Gear Tier 17. What does that mean for the remainder of the other characters? You can use anything in your roster, essentially, so as long as Morgan Le Fay is at Gear Tier 17, because now you don't need 5 Darkhold members at Gear Tier 17. So this makes it much, much easier, guys. Basically, they've opened the floodgates here for the other options that you can use in your roster, and it doesn't really matter what happens in the future because so as long as you have meta characters that can, be used in conjunction with Morgan Le Fay, at the end of the day, you're going to be able to get this unlocked quite easy. Pestilence Saga mission requirements. So, similar both to what we just saw right there with the hard, heroic, apocalyptic. You can see here, this also is the same thing. They've changed it from having Morgan Le Fay and the Darkhold team. Now you can actually use Mystic characters at Gear Tier 17 plus Morgan Le Fay. So remember, there's a difference between the Pestilence Saga unlock requirements and the Pestilence Saga mission requirements because this ultimately unlocks Pestilence Saga so that you have access to it. And then each of the missions specifically do actually need those said traits or characters. So in this case now, because every Mystic character can be utilized here in Morgan Le Fay, you're not going to have an issue as opposed to before where you needed to build up Darkhold all to level 90 and Gear Tier 17 in order to fully push through the apocalyptic stages. This kind of rationale and method has been applied across the board for all of them. So now Famine Saga, instead of the 5 unlimited X-Men, you're going to only need Rogue at Gear Tier 17 at the very highest level at apocalyptic. Similarly to what we saw with Darkhold and as well as Morgan Le Fay, instead of Mystic now it's mutant characters and Rogue being Gear Tier 17. And this is awesome because there's just so many good mutant characters now in the game if you think about it, especially with the changing meta, the Age of X theme that we've seen all year. Well, you can use a character now like Old Man Logan and completely shred it up in the apocalyptic stages here for unlimited X-Men previously, but now you only need Rogue built up. And honestly, I feel like Rogue is going to play a big part in the Age of X once the full details and events come with Professor Xavier. I'm sure many of these X-Men are going to get reworked, kind of similar to what we saw with Sinister Superior 6. That's my hope anyways. War Saga, which is the Red Hulk here, you can see instead of 5 Gamma, it's going to be Red Hulk at Gear Tier 17. Also 5 Bio characters at Gear Tier 17 and Red Hulk. So you can use, for example, the full Hive Mind team. You can use, characters like Super Skrull being Bio. Like, honestly, it's pretty crazy. You can use almost anything at your disposal. And there's some really, really powerful characters when you just use these big and broad categories. And at the same time, we're going to be safe in the future with this kind of update, because at the end of the day, even if some of these characters have fallen out of the meta, they're always going to be classified as either a mystic, bio, mutant, and so forth. So this is absolutely huge, guys. So there you go. And then finally, with Death Saga unlock here, instead of 5 Death Seed for Archangel, we just need Archangel at gear tier 17, similar to what we've seen before. And I like this one too, because Death and both, Famine, they both require mutant characters, so that's pretty great. You can double dip here actually. So once again, it goes back to mutant here for Archangel. And you can see here, finally, they also revised the Apocalypse Saga mission. So remember, after you do all the 4 Horsemen, guys, and you go through the Apocalyptic, there is also an Apocalypse Saga. And this is ultimately how you push through to actually unlock Apocalypse, right? And there is some big slew of changes here, as you can see, because before, you need to make sure that you have the original Strike characters and at the same time the Horsemen and all their respective teams, which is why this was such a process, right? It was 23 characters in total that you needed to actually unlock Apocalypse. Well, they're opening the floodgates on this one too. So you can see here, they do actually break it down, I think, from hard, heroic, and apocalyptic. So obviously they're going to have their changes, but I believe most of this is mirrored. So they just need them at higher gear tier levels. We'll see. Okay, so Apocalypse Saga, instead of Darkhold now, you only need Mystic. Instead of Unlimited X-Men, you need Mutant. So again, they've treated this similar to how they treated the Horsemen. But previously they needed Kestrel, Deathpool, and as well as Spireweaver at gear tier 15. Now you just need 3 MSF originals at gear tier 15. So you can actually include a character like Val into this mix, which is pretty notable, guys. We have Morgan Le Fay, Kestrel, Spireweaver, Agatha, and Gambit randomly. And now it can be any at gear tier 15, but so as long as you have Morgan Le Fay. And then finally, any character at gear tier 15, so as long as you have Rogue and Archangel, and they would have been built up already because of the fact that you would have needed to go through the original Horseman Scourges and Sagas, of course. And then finally here, this is where those requirements did not change, right? This is why they wanted to make it clear. You still need Mystic characters at gear tier 16 and T2 ISO 8 level 4. You need mutants at that level, bio, mutant, so forth. They changed it back to the originals here, any kind of original. So again, Val gets included into this mix. And then finally, the last 2, once again, needing Morgan Le Fay, Rogue, and Archangel being part of that mixture. And then finally, this is replicated here for the Apocalyptic, which is gear tier 17 now, and T2 ISO 8 level 5. So by making these changes, guys, honestly, like the actual gear requirements different now, because it's not as heavy because of the fact that you can actually leverage what's in your roster. And that's been the biggest takeaway from this update, is that value is to be had now for previously invested roster characters, and you don't necessarily need to build up their teams, but you still need to build up the Horseman characters. I still think each and every one of the Horsemen have a place in the game. However, obviously their teams have fallen off the meta. So hopefully this helps you guys out. A pretty sizable update. This is the biggest one we've seen since the introduction of obviously the recurring sagas and events going forward at the start of the year. And now we have this much easier way to actually unlock Apocalypse. Huge for newer players, and as well as the mid-game folks trying to unlock Apocalypse, because now a lot less resources, and hopefully you didn't have to build up any of the past Horseman teams before you saw this update, because this is pretty notable and it's going to save you a lot of resources and gold. Thank you for your time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.